Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
Nikolai Fyodorov, a figure both enigmatic and prescient, dedicated his intellectual life to a singular, audacious goal of physical resurrection of all who have ever lived. This proposition, radical even within the ferment of late 19th century thought, formed the bedrock of his philosophy, a philosophy meticulously crafted to address what he perceived as the ultimate injustice, the inevitability of death. Fyodorov's vision transcended mere philosophical speculation. He framed the overcoming of mortality as a scientific and technological imperative, a project demanding the collective efforts of humanity. He believed that science, far from being a detached pursuit of knowledge, should be harnessed to the task of conquering death, space, and time. Fyodorov's central argument stemmed from a profound sense of moral obligation. He viewed death as an unacceptable defeat, a cosmic tragedy that robbed humanity of its potential and perpetuated an unending cycle of loss. The past, for Fyodorov, was a repository of unfulfilled lives, a vast cemetery of unrealized potential. His solution was equally ambitious, a scientifically guided resurrection. This would necessitate, in his view, the meticulous collection and preservation of all biological remnants, the development of technologies capable of reconstituting the dead, and a radical restructuring of human society to facilitate this monumental undertaking. He envisioned a future where science, guided by ethical principles, would reverse the entropy of death, restoring all individuals to life. The core of Fyodorov's thought is most clearly articulated in his seminal work, The Philosophy of the Common Task. This collection of essays and fragments serves as a blueprint for his proposed project, outlining the theoretical and practical considerations involved in achieving resurrection. The common task referred to the collective endeavor of humanity, united in the shared goal of overcoming. Fyodorov argued that this task demanded a comprehensive reevaluation of societal priorities, demanding a shift away from trivial pursuits and towards the monumental challenge of reversing mortality. He proposed a radical realignment of scientific disciplines, advocating for the integration of seemingly disparate fields such as biology, physics, and engineering. Fyodorov did place value on the scientific method, though he advocated for its complete reorientation toward the problem of death. He did value the empirical pursuit of knowledge, but he believed it should function under the moral guidance of the common task. He saw the scientific method as a tool, a set of techniques that could be utilized to the service of a greater ethical end. The initial reception of Fyodorov's ideas was understandably mixed. Within the intellectual circles of 19th century Russia, his proposals encountered both fascination and skepticism. His ideas resonated with a deep-seated yearning for spiritual renewal and a rejection of the perceived materialism of the age. The Russian intelligentsia, steeped in the traditions of both Western and Eastern philosophical thought, were receptive to radical ideas. The intellectual climate of the time was characterized by a fervent search for meaning, a critique of existing social structures, and a deep engagement with questions of faith, morality, and the future of humanity. Fyodorov's ideas, though unorthodox, found fertile ground in this environment. Fyodorov's emphasis on the interconnectedness of all things, his vision of a future where humanity would overcome its limitations, and his call for a radical transformation of society found echoes within the intellectual landscape of the time. His work, however, was often dismissed as utopian or even eccentric. The sheer scale of his project, the scientific and technological challenges it presented, and the philosophical implications of his ideas made them difficult for many to grasp. Some saw his ideas as a form of religious fanaticism, while others struggled to reconcile his vision with the prevailing scientific understanding of the time. Despite the skepticism, Fyodorov's influence began to spread primarily through personal connections and the circulation of his writings. He was a librarian at the Romantsev Museum in Moscow, a position that provided him with access to a wide range of intellectual resources and allowed him to engage with a diverse group of thinkers. Through his work at the library and his personal correspondence, Fyodorov gradually built a following, attracting individuals who were drawn to his radical vision and his unwavering commitment to the common task. One of the most significant legacies of Fyodorov's thought is his influence on the Russian Cosmists. This diverse group of thinkers, artists, and scientists, active in the late 19th and early 20th centuries, embraced and expanded upon Fyodorov's core ideas, developing them in new and often surprising directions. The Cosmists, inspired by Fyodorov's vision of a technologically advanced future, explored the possibilities of space travel, immortality, and the transformation of both the human body and the cosmos. They saw science and technology as the primary tools for achieving these ambitious goals. The Cosmists took Fyodorov's initial proposals to the next level. They built upon his ideas, developing them into a coherent philosophical and scientific framework. They engaged with the latest scientific discoveries, incorporating them into their visions of a future where humanity would transcend its limitations. The Cosmists embraced the idea of space exploration as a means of expanding the sphere of human activity and overcoming the constraints of the earthly realm. They envisioned a future where humanity would colonize the stars, spreading life and consciousness throughout the universe. The Cosmists were not a monolithic group. Their ideas varied widely, and they often disagreed on specific points. However, they were united by their shared belief in the transformative power of science and technology, their commitment to the ideals of human progress, and their unwavering belief in the possibility of a radically different future. They saw Fyodorov as a visionary, a prophet of a new age, whose ideas provided the foundation for their own ambitious projects. The influence of Fyodorov's ideas can be seen in the works of Konstantin Tsiolkovsky, a pioneer of space exploration. Tsiolkovsky, inspired by Fyodorov's vision, dedicated his life to the development of rocketry and the exploration of space. He believed that space colonization was essential for the survival of humanity, and that the expansion of humanity into the cosmos was a necessary step in the process of achieving immortality. Tsiolkovsky's scientific work, which included the development of the rocket equation and the design of multi-stage rockets, laid the groundwork for the space age. Furthermore, the ideas of the Cosmists extended into the realm of art and literature. Writers and artists explored themes of immortality, space travel, and the future of humanity. These artists saw their work as a means of promoting the ideas of the Cosmists and inspiring others to embrace their vision of a new and better world. This fusion of scientific and artistic endeavors further cemented the importance of Fyodorov's ideas in shaping the intellectual landscape of the time. Fyodorov, then, presented a radical proposition of the scientific and technological conquest of death. His vision, born from a deep sense of moral responsibility and a profound belief in the potential of humanity, challenged the prevailing assumptions of his time. While his ideas were initially met with both admiration and skepticism, they laid the foundation for a vibrant intellectual movement and continue to inspire thinkers to this day. His work, though often dismissed as utopian, remains a testament to the power of human imagination and the enduring quest to overcome the limits of existence. From this fertile ground of artistic and intellectual ferment, Fyodorov's own philosophy emerged with a singular, urgent purpose. His vision for the conquest of death was a direct response to what he perceived as a profound failing within the scientific establishment of his era. He looked upon the prodigious advancements of the 19th century, the steam engines, the telegraphs, the burgeoning chemical industries, and saw a colossal misapplication of human genius. In his estimation, science had become preoccupied with the peripheral, dedicating its immense power to increasing the comfort and convenience of the living, while completely ignoring the fundamental injustice of mortality and the silent, forgotten multitude of the dead. This is the core of his critique, a moral indictment of the science that had, in his view, abdicated its ultimate responsibility. Fyodorov articulated a worldview where the pursuits of contemporary science and industry appeared trivial, almost frivolous. He viewed the creation of luxury goods, the development of entertainment, and even the expansion of military technology as profound distractions from humanity's one true obligation. This obligation, which he termed the common task, was the literal, physical resurrection of every human being who had ever lived. For him, progress was a hollow concept if it meant leaving the ancestors behind in the dust. He argued that a society advancing technologically while accepting the permanence of death was engaged in a form of collective patricide, enjoying the fruits of a civilization built by the dead while abandoning them to oblivion. His writings, particularly in his posthumously published collection The Philosophy of the Common Task, are filled with passages questioning a science that studies distant stars yet fails to address the decomposition of the human body, a science that classifies species yet allows the human family to be irrevocably sundered by loss. This deeply ethical critique was shaped by his complex relationship with the prevailing intellectual currents of Russia, especially the Slavophile movement. He shared with thinkers like Alexei Kamak of a profound belief in Sobornost, the concept of a spiritual community bound by love and shared purpose, and a similar skepticism toward the solos, individualism, he saw in Western European thought. The Slavophiles, however, often looked backward, idealizing a pre-Petrine Russia and maintaining a deep suspicion of secular science and rationalism. Fyodorov broke decisively from this position. He embraced their diagnosis of spiritual alienation while completely rejecting their proposed remedy of retreating from modernity. For him, the path to true Sobornost, a community encompassing all generations living and dead, lay directly to the most advanced application of science and technology. He sought to baptize science, to infuse its methods with the Slavophiles' spiritual yearning and redirect its power toward a sacred, unifying goal. His solution was therefore a radical reorientation of the entire scientific enterprise. He envisioned a world where every laboratory, every observatory, and every field of study was conscripted into the single, all-encompassing project of resurrection. This was a vision of breathtaking ambition. Astronomy would cease to be a passive observation of the cosmos and become the active search for new planets to house the resurrected billions. Meteorology and geology would become tools for planetary engineering, regulating global climates and environments to create a sustainable home for a vastly expanded humanity. Physics, chemistry, and biology would form the vanguard of the project. Their research focused on the fundamental problem of gathering the dispersed atoms of the deceased and reassembling them into living, conscious beings. Science would transform from a descriptive endeavor, explaining the world as it is, into a prescriptive and creative force, remaking the universe according to a moral imperative. The echoes of Fyodorov's critique of aimless progress reverberated through subsequent generations of Russian thought and resonate with surprising clarity in modern discourse. Philosophers like Nikolai Fyodorov, while thus reading with the specifics of Fyodorov's project, absorbed his deep questioning of technology's ultimate purpose. Fyodorov's own explorations of the dehumanizing potential of a purely technical civilization owe a clear intellectual debt to Fyodorov's initial challenge. More broadly, Fyodorov's insistence that science must serve a higher ethical purpose is a powerful antecedent to contemporary debates on technological responsibility. Current discussions surrounding the ethical guardrails for artificial intelligence, the moral implications of genetic engineering, and the existential risks posed by uncontrolled technological development all stem from the same fundamental question Fyodorov posed over a century ago: what is the proper goal of our knowledge and power? He stands as a stark historical reminder that technological capacity alone is insufficient. It requires a guiding philosophy and a moral framework to ensure it serves humanity's deepest values. His critique, therefore, was far more than a simple complaint about the priorities of his day. It was a comprehensive philosophical argument of the complete transformation of humanity's relationship with knowledge. He called for science to transcend its role as a mere tool for understanding and mastering nature for immediate gain. He demanded it become an instrument of universal salvation, a moral crusade on a cosmic scale. This was a science with a soul, driven by filial piety and the goal of total restitution. Having established this profound ethical and philosophical foundation for why science must be remade, the question naturally turned to the practicalities of the task itself. His vision, while born of deep spiritual conviction, was intended to be a concrete program of action grounded in what he understood to be the laws of the physical universe. His thinking thus moved from the philosophical why to the speculative how, outlining the specific scientific proposals he believed could turn the impossible dream of resurrection into a tangible reality. Fyodorov's program for the resurrection of the dead, a project of unprecedented ambition, was conceived as a scientific undertaking. It was an attempt to harness the laws of the cosmos for a singular purpose of the physical restoration of all who had ever lived. This was a task that demanded a radical rethinking of the scientific enterprise, a transformation of its goals and methods. His proposals were born from the conviction that death was a problem susceptible to scientific solution, a challenge that could be overcome through the application of human intellect and ingenuity. The core of Fyodorov's resurrection project rested on the idea of collecting and preserving the remnants of the deceased. He believed that the physical forms of the dead, even in their decayed state, contained the essential information necessary for their reconstitution. This information, he posited, was encoded in the very fabric of matter, in the arrangement of atoms, in the patterns of energy that had once constituted a living person. The challenge, as he saw it, was to devise methods for extracting, preserving, and ultimately reassembling these scattered fragments. His thinking was deeply influenced by the scientific advances of his time. The burgeoning field of chemistry, particularly the development of atomic theory, provided the framework for his ideas. Dmitry Mendeleev's periodic table of elements, a systematic organization of matter based on atomic weight and properties, offered a glimpse into the fundamental structure of the universe. Fyodorov understood that the universe was constructed from fundamental building blocks, atoms, and that these atoms, arranged in specific configurations, gave rise to all the diverse forms of life. The implication was profound. If the arrangement of atoms could be understood, then the process of deconstruction, decay, and the return to the elements could be reversed. Fyodorov envisioned a world where scientists, engineers, and technicians would work together to accomplish this monumental task. He foresaw the development of sophisticated instruments capable of detecting and recording the minute traces of the deceased. He proposed utilizing advanced techniques of preservation, perhaps cryogenics, to safeguard these traces from further degradation. He speculated on the possibility of manipulating the fundamental forces of nature to reconstruct the original forms, atom by atom. His writings are filled with evocative imagery of the scientific tools and technologies that would be needed for this undertaking. He imagined the creation of vast laboratories dedicated to the study of the dead, equipped with powerful microscopes, advanced chemical analysis, and intricate machinery. These laboratories would become the new centers of human civilization, the focal points of a collective effort to conquer death. Fyodorov's ideas about atomism were central to his vision of resurrection. He believed that the human body, like all matter, was composed of atoms. These atoms, he argued, possessed a kind of memory, a record of the individual's life, experiences, and consciousness. The task of resurrection, therefore, was to gather these atoms, to arrange them in the correct configuration, and to restore the individual to life. This process, he understood, would require a deep understanding of physics, chemistry, and biology. He did not, however, provide detailed blueprints or specific scientific equations. Rather, his work was a philosophical and conceptual framework, a call to action that inspired others to explore the scientific possibilities of resurrection. His influence can be seen in the later development of the Russian Cosmists, a group of thinkers and artists who embraced Fyodorov's ideas and expanded upon them. Modern scientific advancements have, in a roundabout way, continued to explore some of the issues Fyodorov was grappling with. The field of cryonics, for example, seeks to preserve the human body at extremely low temperatures in the hope that future technologies will be able to revive them. While cryonics does not claim to resurrect from the dead, it attempts to preserve the physical structures of the body, including the brain, in the hope that the information contained within can be recovered. The study of cellular preservation, a branch of biology, explores the methods of preserving cells and tissues for future use. These scientific endeavors, while distinct from Fyodorov's original vision, share a common thread of belief that the human body, even after death, contains valuable information that can be retrieved and utilized. The concept of collecting and preserving traces of the deceased, though speculative, finds a parallel in the modern field of forensic science. Forensic scientists meticulously collect and analyze minute traces of evidence such as DNA, fingerprints, and other biological materials to reconstruct past events. This process, though focused on solving crimes, demonstrates the potential of gathering and utilizing information from seemingly insignificant remnants. Fyodorov's ideas, though ambitious and, at the time, seemingly fantastical, were firmly rooted in the scientific understanding of his era. He saw the world through the lens of atomism, believing that the fundamental building blocks of matter held the key to understanding life and death. He was inspired by the progress of chemistry and physics, envisioning a future where science could solve the ultimate problem, the conquest of death. His reliance on the scientific advancements of his time, such as the understanding of atoms and the structure of matter, inspired by the work of figures like Dmitry Mendeleev, shaped his vision. Fyodorov's influence on the Russian Cosmists was profound. They adopted his ideas about resurrection and expanded upon them, developing a rich and complex cosmology. They embraced the scientific aspects of resurrection, seeking to transform Fyodorov's vision into a concrete scientific project. They explored the possibilities of space travel, technological advancement, and the manipulation of the physical world to achieve the goal of universal resurrection. The Cosmists, therefore, took Fyodorov's philosophical framework and translated it into a more explicitly scientific and technological program. They sought to create the tools and technologies that Fyodorov had only imagined. Fyodorov's philosophical edifice, while rooted in scientific aspirations, extended far beyond the realm of mere technological possibility. At its heart lay a profound ethical imperative, a framework of moral responsibility that governed his vision of the future. This ethical dimension, the very essence of Fyodorov's thought, revolved around the problem of death and the urgent need for its transcendence. He perceived death as the ultimate injustice and affront to the inherent value of every individual. The solution, as he envisioned it, was a collective undertaking, a shared obligation he termed the common task. The common task, in Fyodorov's conception, was a universal endeavor, a project embracing all of humanity across all generations to conquer death and restore all who had ever lived to life. This was not a task for the individual, but for the collective, demanding a coordinated effort fueled by a deep sense of filial duty to the ancestors. This duty, the cornerstone of Fyodorov's ethics, stemmed from the belief that the present generation bore a moral responsibility to those who had come before. Their lives, their experiences, their very existence were to be honored and, ultimately, restored. Fyodorov's understanding of filial duty was not a mere sentimental attachment. It was a profound recognition of the interconnectedness of all human beings. He argued that the present generation was, in a sense, indebted to the past, inheriting the fruits of their labors, their wisdom, and their sacrifices. To fail to honor the dead, to allow their memory to fade, was to betray this inheritance, to sever the vital link between past, present, and future. This was a moral failing that demanded rectification. The common task, therefore, was a response to this moral imperative. It was a call to action, a demand for collective effort to overcome the limitations of mortality. This project was to be guided by a specific moral framework, prioritizing the restoration of life. Fyodorov's ethics, therefore, were inextricably linked to his scientific aspirations. The ethical framework provided the motivation, the moral compass, that would guide the scientific endeavor toward the ultimate goal of resurrection. This ethical framework was not abstract or theoretical. Fyodorov provided concrete examples of how this duty could be enacted. One particularly notable example was his emphasis on the role of art in museums. He believed that art, especially visual representation, served as a vital tool for preserving the memory of the dead, enabling future generations to connect with their ancestors. Museums, in his view, were to become repositories of memory, spaces where the lives and achievements of the past could be preserved. They were to be transformed from mere collections of artifacts into active centers of remembrance, facilitating the restoration of the dead. Museums were, in essence, to become the laboratories of the common task, preserving the materials needed for resurrection. Fyodorov's views on filial duty and the common task were significantly influenced by Christian ethics. The Christian emphasis on the resurrection of the dead, the belief in the afterlife, and the importance of remembering the departed provided a foundation for his thought. However, Fyodorov reinterpreted these concepts through a secular lens. He did not embrace religious dogma. He sought to ground his ideas in reason and scientific possibility. He drew upon the Christian emphasis on hope and salvation, but he transformed it into a scientific and technological project. The resurrection, for Fyodorov, was not a matter of divine intervention, but a task for humanity to undertake through scientific means. This secularized version of the Christian imperative provided the ethical framework for his scientific vision. The emphasis on remembering the dead, the belief in the possibility of resurrection, and the importance of filial duty all became integral components of his scientific project. The common task, therefore, was a secularized version of the Christian concept of salvation, offering a path toward overcoming death through collective effort. The impact of Fyodorov's ethical framework on the development of the Russian Cosmists' social and political philosophies was significant. The Cosmists, a group of thinkers and artists who embraced Fyodorov's ideas, developed a utopian vision for the future grounded in his ethical principles. They sought to create a society where the common task could be realized. They envisioned a world where science and technology would be harnessed to overcome death and restore all people to life. The Cosmists, therefore, saw Fyodorov's ethical framework as a blueprint for a new social order. The Cosmists, such as Konstantin Tsiolkovsky and Alexander Bogdanov, expanded on Fyodorov's ideas, developing a more explicitly scientific and technological program. They envisioned space travel as a means of expanding the resources available to humanity, allowing for the restoration of the dead. They explored the possibilities of technological advancement, envisioning the manipulation of the physical world to achieve the goal of universal resurrection. They embraced Fyodorov's vision of the common task, but they sought to translate it into a concrete plan of action. The Cosmists' vision for a utopian society was deeply influenced by Fyodorov's ethical framework. They believed that the restoration of the dead was not only a scientific possibility, but a moral imperative. They sought to create a society where the collective effort to overcome death would be prioritized. This vision influenced their social and political ideas, shaping their views on the role of science and technology, the organization of society, and the relationship between humanity and the cosmos. Fyodorov's ethical framework, therefore, provided the moral foundation for the Cosmists' utopian vision. It was the ethical imperative that drove their scientific and technological aspirations. It was the guiding principle that shaped their social and political ideas. The common task, as conceived by Fyodorov, was not merely a scientific project. It was a moral imperative, a call to action, a demand for a collective effort to overcome the ultimate injustice of death. This ethical framework continues to resonate in contemporary discussions on bioethics and the responsibilities of future generations to the past. It challenges us to consider our relationship to death, memory, and the future. It proposes that we are, in fact, morally obligated to confront the problem of death and to strive for its transcendence. The echoes of Fyodorov's thought pervade the intellectual landscape, a testament to the enduring power of his vision. His influence extends beyond the confines of philosophy and theology, reaching into the realms of science, art, and even the nascent fields of transhumanism and related movements. The core tenets of his philosophy, the common task, the imperative of resurrection, and the rejection of the inevitability of death have been interpreted and adapted in varied contexts, demonstrating their continued relevance. Fyodorov's call for a collective effort to overcome death resonated with early proponents of transhumanism, a movement that seeks to enhance the human condition through the use of technology. Their emphasis on radical life extension, the abolition of aging, and the potential for uploading consciousness aligns with Fyodorov's aspirations for the physical resurrection of the dead. The idea of using technology to conquer mortality, though perhaps not in the precise manner Fyodorov envisioned, finds a clear antecedent in his work. The pursuit of cryonics, the preservation of bodies after death with the hope of future revival, also reflects a direct lineage to Fyodorov's ideas, though it is a practice he may have viewed with a degree of skepticism. Furthermore, Fyodorov's influence can be seen in contemporary discussions about the ethical implications of scientific progress. His insistence on the moral responsibility of humanity to confront the problem of death prompts reflection on the proper use of biotechnology, genetic engineering, and artificial intelligence. The question of whether we have a duty to extend human life and to what extent we should intervene in the natural processes of aging and death is central to modern bioethical debates. Fyodorov's work provides a historical framework for understanding these complex questions, urging us to consider the long-term consequences of our actions and the ethical dimensions of scientific advancement. The aesthetic impact of Fyodorov's ideas is also significant. His vision of a future where science and art are intertwined, where the creative impulse is directed toward the task of resurrection, has inspired artists and writers. The concept of cosmism itself, with its emphasis on the interconnectedness of all things and the potential for human transformation, has served as a source of inspiration for artistic expression. His ideas have found expression in various forms, from literature and painting to film and performance art. The exploration of themes such as immortality, the relationship between humanity and the cosmos, and the role of technology in shaping the future all owe a debt to Fyodorov's pioneering work. Yet, a critical assessment of Fyodorov's contributions reveals both the brilliance and the limitations of his thought. His vision, while profoundly inspiring, is also characterized by a degree of utopianism. The practical challenges of achieving physical resurrection, the potential for unintended consequences, and the ethical complexities of manipulating life and death are issues that Fyodorov did fully address. His reliance on a particular understanding of Christian theology, though not central to his core philosophical tenets, may present difficulties for those who do not share his faith. Moreover, Fyodorov's ideas have been criticized for their potential to be interpreted in ways that could lead to dangerous outcomes. The emphasis on collective action and the rejection of individual limitations could be seen as justification for totalitarianism or the suppression of individual freedom. The pursuit of immortality, if pursued without careful consideration of ethical constraints, could lead to new forms of social inequality and injustice. These are considerations that must be carefully weighed when evaluating Fyodorov's legacy. Despite these limitations, the enduring power of Fyodorov's vision lies in its ability to challenge conventional thinking and to provoke profound reflection on the human condition. His work encourages us to confront the fundamental questions of life, death, and the meaning of existence. It invites us to consider our responsibility to the past, to the present, and to the future. It challenges us to imagine a world where science, art, and ethics are integrated, where humanity overcomes its limitations and achieves its full potential. The provocative nature of Fyodorov's thought stems from its radical departure from conventional wisdom. His rejection of the inevitability of death, his belief in the possibility of physical resurrection, and his vision of a common task that unites all of humanity are ideas that are both unsettling and inspiring. They force us to reconsider our assumptions about the nature of reality, the meaning of life, and the possibilities of human existence. Fyodorov's work compels us to engage in a sustained dialogue about the ethical, philosophical, and scientific implications of his vision. In the 21st century, Fyodorov's ideas continue to resonate with those who seek to understand the challenges and opportunities of our time. His work offers a framework for addressing the ethical dilemmas posed by scientific progress, the environmental crisis, and the increasing interconnectedness of the world. His emphasis on the importance of memory, the value of human life, and the need for a collective effort to overcome the limitations of the human condition provides a powerful and relevant message for our age. Fyodorov's work, while rooted in the 19th century, speaks directly to contemporary concerns. His vision of a future where humanity overcomes death, achieves immortality, and transforms the cosmos may seem audacious. It is a vision that continues to inspire, challenge, and provoke. Fyodorov's legacy is a testament to the power of ideas to shape our understanding of the world and to inspire us to strive for a better future. It is a legacy that deserves continued exploration, critical analysis, and thoughtful engagement. The enduring relevance of his work lies in its capacity to spark the imagination, stimulate ethical reflection, and encourage us to consider, with renewed vigor, the profound questions of human destiny.
We really appreciate you tuning into this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.